Following the crusade of the man who is said to have abolished Britain's trade in human cargo.
It was the greatest crime against humanity and was perpetrated by people who should have known better.
I've faced the barbarity of buying and selling people in the transatlantic slave trade.
It would have to be supernatural, not to, I would have thought, die in here.
William Wilberforce is credited with bringing this inhumanity to an end.
As England owes to him the reformation of manners, the world owes to him the abolition of slavery.
He is remembered for leading Britain out of its darkest hour.
If you want to look at a godly Christian nation doing good things, look at us ending the slave trade.
But I've discovered that many believe it's now time to re-examine this history.
Britons have made Wilberforce into the national hero and pretended as if the slaves were freed entirely through the efforts of this one very benevolent man. And history didn't happen that way.
This is the story of my quest to find out why. This year is the 200th anniversary of the bill to abolish Britain's transatlantic slave trade. William Wilberforce is at the centre of commemorations marking the 1807 Act of Parliament. There are hundreds of books about Wilberforce. Streets and schools are named after him. There's even a film. And he has a prominent place amongst other great Britons in Westminster Abbey. But not everyone believes the current focus tells the full story. I met historian Adam Hochschild to find out why.
Adam, I'm Moira.
Great to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
Come on inside. There's some things I want to show you here. Okay, so here he is, William Wilberforce, a little bit larger than life, I think, because he was actually a very, very short man. And I think the significant line on the inscription is where it says that he removed from the British nation the guilt of the African slave trade. That's the key to why Wilberforce has become such a national hero. He made Britons feel good about it.
So he's the conscience of the nation.
He's the conscience of the nation, and it's very comforting to imagine that the slave trade was stopped through the efforts of this one very nice, very benign, very philanthropic, very religious man. See, he's holding a Bible in the statue here.
Are you saying that he was not father of the abolition movement?
No, I think there were many other people involved. One is Thomas Clarkson, who's remembered only by a small plaque on the floor here. But without Clarkson, Wilberforce would not have been able to lead that movement in Parliament.
I want to know more, and not only about Clarkson's role, so that I can make up my own mind about William Wilberforce. Wilberforce is remembered for making the British Parliament look at the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. So I travelled to Ghana in West Africa to find out what it actually entailed. Merchants came here to buy or capture people. For 300 years, British traders shipped millions of captives to the Caribbean, exchanging them for sugar, cotton, and rum. There are many castles dotted along Ghana's coastline, which were once fortified trading posts dealing in human misery. I went to Cape Coast Castle, taken over by the British in 1664. They modified it for storing captives waiting to be shipped out. This was slavery on an industrial scale. My guide was the poet and academic, Dr. Abena Busia.
Hello, you made it. Indeed. Lovely performance. Wow. Welcome to Cape Coast.
What a day.
What a day. What a day it's going to be, you know.
Well, I've come fully prepared with tissues.
You will need them. You will need them. Now, the point about Cape Coast Castle is that it was the center of the British transatlantic trade for about 150 years. The British didn't begin the slave trade, but when they got into it, boy did they do it. They became the biggest slave traders, and they controlled it from here. Look at this place. Imagine this in 1807, your year. Imagine this in 1807. It's grand, but below places where we are feasting and banqueting, men and women and children,
Yes.
in chains, are marched through here.
I didn't expect it to be so steep.
It's a very difficult walk in many senses.
It's so dark.
This is the main slave dungeon. And you see what little light and air there is. And the length of time people were held here was arbitrary. Maybe you were fortunate, in inverted commas, and you were here only a day or two. Some people stayed months. I mean,
But I expected this room to be huge from the point of view of getting in as much profit as you can. So therefore you want as many men and women, children in here.
First of all, the men and the women are separated, but you need to bear in mind, they don't need to be comfortable, they only need to stay alive. I mean, you know, this is the horror of it. There was layers and centuries of ossified human excrement to this level.
This goes beyond depravity. You would have to be supernatural not to, I would have thought, die in here.
All subjected people find ways of resisting their subjugation, and this is the response to that resistance. You don't need to be told that this is the condemned cell. There isn't even the minimal ventilation that there was
It reeks.
on the other side.
It reeks. Condemned cells. How did the inmates die?
You've just been in there. No air, no light. What else do you need to do? No food, no water.
They literally suffocated and starved to death.
Suffocate and starve.
The captives were marched out to waiting ships through the same door. Once through it, Africa was left behind forever.
So, really, we've reached what was the end of the road for the captives, because we are now looking at the door of no return. Out
Oh my God.
to face the Atlantic Ocean.
They're right, the boats are right here.
The boats are right here.
They couldn't get closer.
There.
We are right on the beach.
into the rowing boats, out to sea, across. You're gone.
Sorry.
No, it's the horror of it.